how can you help and how can you design development programs that does not only suit the organization, but as well the purpose of the individual. It will be based on people analytics, data analytics, data management. Move and invest in this.
Hey everyone, it's Samah El Saghier from Opus Talent Analytics, and this is the Executive Corner podcast, a new podcast about everything that has to do with future of work. As you've listened to previous speakers, or if you haven't, please do chime in and listen. Our speakers are subject matter experts in their specific domains. So they come from different backgrounds, and their point of view matters because either they have the experience that backs it up, or they have a very unique aspect of something that they will teach us through the podcast. More importantly, they have a message for business leaders. And I think this is super important because the topic is becoming super critical now. It's impacting continuity, evolution, and success of businesses. And so what are some of the short and midterm things that we need to think about as business leaders when it comes to the future of work? Today, we're talking with Samah El Saghier, who's one of the leading figures in the human capital space in Egypt. Samah is the Chief People and Culture Officer of Integrated Diagnostic Holdings, also known as IDH. With more than 23 years of experience across multiple corporate institutions, Samah leads with a data-driven mindset. And this is really, really important because she's an excellent speaker for the podcast because of that perspective. As an expert in the human capital domain, we'll hear Samah's view around the dynamics of the talent market. What are some of the indicators that we should be paying attention to, and how AI is transforming not only the human capital practice, but really, really just the function of employability. Samah, we're super excited to have you.
Thank you, Sumaya, so much for having me with you today. I'm very excited for the session, and I'm very excited for the topic, especially because it's somehow challenging. We do not know what we don't know. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So it's very exciting to, forecast, put a lot of effort thinking how future can be shaped. So thank you.
Great. I agree with you. And that's why it's always really interesting for us to start with just getting to know what the topic's about. So if I ask you a very, very basic question, what does really the future of work mean from your perspective?
It means how could work change? How can workforce and workplace prepare us or help us to understand what's going to happen in the future? Lately, we've gone through a lot of changes from, COVID, false majeures that pushed us to change before we were really ready for it 100%. And guess what? We have survived. So if you're asking me, what do we forecast to happen in the future? Nobody knows. Are we prepared? We have been pushed to swim without learning how to swim in, difficult times. So yeah, it means that how work can shift and change, and how can the workforce and the workplace dynamics help us to digest and understand this change.
And I think that's a really interesting probe into my question, which is, we hear a lot about generational differences. And we're going to be seeing Gen Zers overtake our workforce over the coming 7 to 8 years. They will represent more than 50% of our workforce. More importantly, people, because they were pushed by COVID and because they were pushed by innovation, are starting to ask themselves the question, do I need to be connected 100% of the time? Is this the right thing from a priority perspective, from a mindset perspective? So I'd love for you to unpack that a little bit and talk to this topic from not only the perspective of the employee, but also the leader and the aspect of the leader and how the leader should be dealing with this new norm that we're seeing.
When I was thinking about the topic, and especially when it comes to Gen Zs, I thought I'll just put on the hat of a Gen Z and try to understand how he thinks. So the first questions he would ask himself about the future would be in the business. So how do we get money and how do we do the business? And what would be the impact of the devaluation? So these are questions still have popping from the minds of the Gen Zs. Uh, as a leader, I would definitely look at it from a different angle, from a talent management angle. So what is the pool that I have now for talents? What would be the supply and what would be the demand? Okay. And on the long run, this mix of supply and demand, are we ready to face the future with the current pool that we have? Do we need to do any upskilling or reskilling when it comes to the talent pools? Also, during COVID, we were pushed to the work from home setup. And we were calling for it before the COVID multiple times. And as long as there was no urge of using it, we did not use it. And it has proved in most of the organizations from a cost-effective perspective, from comfortableness for the employees, that it is working. So in the future, how would it look like? Would we still continue? Would we want the connectivity between the workplace and the person? The Gen Zs understood that because this is where they came up to business. I can work from any place. I can still perform as long as I have my tools and I have the right guidance and coaching. I can work from any place. This is another perspective of understanding. A very important perspective, Sumaya, is about the rising of new industries. From my humble opinion, I would say in the future that we will see industries like healthcare is booming, and due to the very efficient services that Egypt would provide in health service against its cost compared to the Middle East and the globe. So healthcare is rising, e-commerce, green economy. All of these industries are very attractive to Gen Zs and to talents in general. And we will see the disappearance of some jobs, that will be replaced by robots, like, groceries and supermarkets. There will be dead positions where you will need to take the talents working in these positions and reskill them to maybe other positions. A very big challenge that we are currently facing, it's a present challenge, not a future challenge, is the attraction of our talents to Gulf. So we are left with employees who wants to stay for personal reasons, but who wants to move for, compensation issues, economic reasons, he will move. So the pool of talents that you currently have now in Egypt, you need to work on their upskilling and reskilling. So you will see people moving from marketing to e-commerce. You will see people moving from HR to other positions. And you will see people being upskilled from maybe a lot of CFOs becoming CEOs. So this is where you need to take very fast actions when it comes to development. So basically, in a nutshell, this is the very important elements we need to have a look at when it comes to understanding future from the hats of leaders and the Gen Zs and the talents.
Yeah, and that's absolutely important. And before we go to we move to the topic of leaders, but you say something really interesting for me, which is what is important for me as a person who's doing the work. What are my priorities? And I think we used to, in other generations, that was overlooked. In the future of work, this is people are really, really prioritizing their personal health, their mental health, their own set of what is important for me. And I think that's a big shift.
Absolutely. Again, wearing the hat of Gen Zs, what's in it for me? If I'm not happy, I'm not staying. For me, it's not a matter of the title, the scope, the compensation, the cost. It's everything that suits me as a person, not only as an employee, but as an individual. And this is going to lead us to what does organization need to do for the future. They need to equip their executives with more coaching and empathetic leadership. Okay, so you need to understand the personal drivers for the talent in front of you, so that you will be able to coach them better. It's not only about strategy focus. So strategy focus for executive, this is يعني ipso facto, يعني we need it anyways. But what do we need to inject in them? They need to be more empathetic. They need to be good coaches. They need to understand. They need to give purpose for the employees. It's not performance appraisal is going to be shifted not only from business objectives, but again to personal purpose. How can you help and how can you design development programs that does not only suit the organization, but as well the purpose of the individuals. So the individual will think, and we will be asked these questions. How are you going to upskill my capabilities? Do you think I need to reskill my capabilities to move somewhere else? And this is going to put a different role on HR, not only on advising and coaching, but doing it on a very individual and very purpose-based level for the people. Also, organizations would definitely continue the cost-efficient mode. We will be needing to see this even more and more aggressive, and they need to balance. So balance is very important in everything that you do. So you need to do cost efficiency. However, you need to still individualize everything that you do to the people. Okay, and to think about the person. From the things that organization would need to have a great focus on is the technology adoption. And from here, I would like to move to the role of HR in the future. And I would kick it off with the technology adoption. So it's good to have HR analytics, data management, AI. Now it's not nice to have and it's not good to have. We have heard a lot of organizations being prepared for this day one day. And with the upcoming biggest change, this is going to be used. Get out of your drawers the part projects related to technology. Everyone do that. We have a lot of very good companies that is already supporting when it comes to data management, data analytics, supporting other organizations that do not have experience in this area. Okay, so HR, it will be based on people analytics, data analytics, data management. Move and invest in this. So if we're saying that we need to balance between the cost and we need to balance between what to do for the future, how to be prepared for HR, data analytics is key. It's not as nice to have, it's a priority.
And one of the interesting things in a study that was just completed, I think last month, by Infosys, and the study said something that was really shocking for me. They looked at over 2,800 companies. And one of the two of the very, very distinct things that stood out is, number one, for business leaders in organizations that were able to retain up to 24 months or more, they were able to make 20% more upside on their bottom line because of this strategy. The other thing was the drivers of, to your point, around access to data and then using the data to be able to make decisions, is when they started to look at things like well-being, restructuring their compensation strategy, thinking about flexibility. Those three things, they found that those three things were interrelated. It saved them money because the compensations were channeled towards the right effort, or redesigned, let's say, but to use the right word for it. And more importantly, it led to the retention. So it was really, I thought it was really interesting because those were the kind of the prime elements of the findings in the study.
I can't agree more with you, Sumaya. And again, a very direct request and message to everyone who's listening to us is uh, focus on your analytics, know your numbers,
Yeah.
know just know your numbers. It's going to help you a lot. So this is one of the big roles that HR is going to play in the future is to know the numbers, know the analytics, and manage them as well. It's not only knowing them, but knowing them and manage them. And the role of HR is going to being they're going to focus on having more, agile teams and tribes. We have heard about this concept a lot, but again, if we're talking about from the efficiency part and from the challenges that we face and from the purpose and the needs of the Gen Z, so we need to put the people together. We need to have teams from across the organization working on agile mode and different projects, just to give the people different purpose and staying away from the boredom of the job. Uh, Also, the HR center of excellence, normally now they can work remotely, and it's going to put more, let's say, importance on the business partners. So the business partners to be able to coach the executives and the work on the empathetic leadership. They're going to move some basic HR roles to the line managers. Okay, this has been happening for a while, but we're going to see the line managers being HR managers very extensively, because this role will be taken from the HR people who will be working on more on the coaching, the empathetic leadership, the agile teams. Uh, Again, HR will have to work on the success of the organization by being, well, we've said this and we have heard this a lot. They're not only business partners, but now they're sitting on the business driver's seat. So digitization, analytics is key for HR for the future of work.
Excellent. So with that, and with the point that we were just talking about in terms of jobs disappearing and new jobs appearing, and I don't want to say jobs disappearing only, but jobs shifting and changing, looking different. And how do organizations think about this ahead of the need? So I'd just love to hear your perspective in terms of your experience about this.
So I've always thought of working in defensive industries. This was my strategy since I was graduated. So since I graduated, so the defensive industry is an industry that is long living regardless of any circumstances that's going to happen. So you have economical situation, you have COVID. A defensive industry is a defensive industry. So telecommunication, FMCG, and healthcare. This was the strategy I built on my career. The number of, let's say, I'm not talking about jobs, but I'm talking about industries first. The number of industries, the importance of industries changed by the importance of the situation that we're in. So now healthcare is very important after the series of, the illness and the COVID and what we have seen, and e-commerce and all the industries related to e-commerce, including banking, because they want to put all their platforms on the online or internet so that people would use them. We have seen people queuing up in banks in COVID in the sun for hours. So a lot of industries, besides the main ones, will rise during crisis. Okay, so and the need as well. So we have for example, in the healthcare, we have very good doctors in the region, and we do this as on very efficient basis, cost and technicality. This does not mean that a lot of jobs will die now, but thinking of like groceries or people working in supermarkets and then the robots and then the AI, and when you travel now, you don't find cashiers. You need to do your stuff yourself. And now in banking, if you go to the teller, he's still going to ask you to show him the application so that he helps you to use it. And maybe seeing analysis on the customer stepping in banks will show us how we relied on automating or digitizing the services. A lot of people we see now with a lot of years of experience in a certain industry, but then consciously they want to move to another industry. They want to move to another job because they think that this industry is maybe not stable. For example, hospitality, for example, maybe it's not stable. Thanks God these days it's very stable and it's very fruitful, but we know it's not stable. So maybe, and we've seen this, we've seen people working in hotels for years and years, and then they consciously move to another industry due to the need, due to their vision that this industry is going to attract more people. We're seeing a lot of startups as well, Sumaya. So the preference of Gen Zs is startups. They don't want to work in a big organization. They want to start something themselves. They want to experience, they don't want a hierarchical organization. They want a flat one. The idea of the tax is not a big deal as long as he's fulfilling his purposes. So all this will add up to the idea of the change of the dynamics of the industries and the job in the future.
I want to make sure that you leave our audience with your last 2 cents. So, what would your last 2 cents be?
Get the nice to have projects and put them in action now. Expand executive focus on coaching and empathy. Understand the needs of Gen Z, because this is going to be the base of your recruitment in the future. Focus on employee experience, concentrating on what matters to the people, not only to the organization. Culture is key, invest in it. Develop your people on change management, because we will be seeing continuous change in the coming years. So people need to understand what is change management, how can they do it, how can they move from one change to the other to live the change curve fully. Help your people to reskill and upskill for the benefit of the organization and for the benefit of your people.
Wonderful. Samah, it's been an amazing few minutes with you. Time flew, but I'm sure we'll find another excuse to bring you and have you once more on the Executive Corner. Thank you for your time. You've listened to today's episode, and keep tuning in, keep listening in to our podcast, and keep following us on YouTube. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Sumaya. Wish you all the best and looking forward to meeting you again in a very interesting topic like this one. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.